What's going on, everybody? We are back. We are back again for another great episode of the Sex, Love, and Marriage Podcast.
Why you gonna? I knew you was gonna.
That's Jess.
That's her. So yeah, we are here tonight. Don't hit me with the finger, Howard. You're trying to cue me in. I know my cues.
Okay, cool.
So what's going on, y'all? Tonight we have a good show. But before we get into it, of course, go ahead and like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are also on Instagram at SLM.podcast, and we're on Facebook at SLM.podcast with the Washingtons.
That's right.
So yeah, y'all tune in every other week. We are dropping some good stuff, and we have got a show for you tonight.
Yes,
okay?
we do. It's gonna be really live. And our show tonight is
What you got tonight? What you got? Because I know you got something, so just bring it.
And talk to me.
Okay, what you doing? Hey.
Now, come and talk to me. You really looking
I
at
like it. I like it.
Yeah, about communication with the relationship.
Okay.
But tonight we're gonna have a really great show because we are honored to have a special guest tonight.
Oh yes.
And before you meet him, I want to tell you a little bit about him. He's a pastor.
Yes. Okay.
Father, singer, songwriter.
Ooh.
He's a marriage and family counselor.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, on the sex, love, and marriage.
Yes, you know it. And he's the curator of marriage maintenance in 1 minute. Y'all got to go check that out. That's really, he be dropping some nuggets on
That's
there.
a gem.
You know what I'm saying?
That is a gem, guys.
Yes. And so we're happy tonight to have Mr. Royce Robinson on the show with us tonight.
And before, hold on, don't, because that's cute and everything that you gave him. But let me tell you how I know him, okay? It was a man and his wife and his daughter that stayed about, let me see, 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 houses down on the right.
Gotcha.
Man, Mr. Royce, I have a dear soft spot for him and his family. Miss Josette, Nastasia, those are my girls.
Great people.
I really love them. We've been knowing each other for quite some time. I look up to him. He's kind of like a father figure to me and my sisters. So when I asked, he didn't even hesitate.
Yeah,
he was like, absolutely. Okay. So I am very honored. I adore him and his family, what he's doing, the work that he's doing, in his ministry and his church and everything like that. So there was not a single bone in my body that was going to say, I wonder who we can bring. I'm just very glad that he is our first guest. Our very first guest, y'all. Y'all know we don't have guests yet, but our very first one is going to be Mr. Royce. Yes. So, without further ado, Mr. Royce Robinson.
Hey guys, how y'all doing, man? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm excited. Yes, he's finna drop some gems tonight, y'all.
Oh, yeah. Man, y'all put the pressure on.
No pressure.
Yeah. I was listening to you backstage, man, and I was thinking, man, who are they introducing? Who is that guy?
You know that guy.
It's the man in the mirror.
Yeah. Then when I heard Herb say, the subject matter, come and talk to me, I was like, they don't know nothing about no Jodeci. Come and talk to me, Jodeci.
I am a little tender now.
Yeah. Right on.
Well, before we get deep into that show tonight, is there anything you want the people to know? Just let them know about yourself.
No, you guys did a great job. Royce F. Robinson is my name. You can find me on Twitter, Royce F. Robinson, Facebook, Royce F. Robinson. I try to use the same one so it won't be complicated.
There you go.
And then you mentioned the marriage maintenance in 1 minute. Started that about a year ago where, just wanted to put some little nuggets out there for people. It didn't take them a long time to watch a snippet.
There you go.
And it's literally, I try to make sure it's 1 minute, but we try to do that. And I currently serve as the elder of marriage and family life at Crossover Bible Fellowship. Shout out to Crossover Bible Fellowship, Pastor Blake Wilson.
Yes.
And so that's what I do now. My lovely wife, Josette Robinson. Love you, babe. We partner up together with marriage counseling and premarital counseling for couples, and then do some other counseling on the side. And then we have a team of people that help us with that, because with marriage, it's so many marriages. Yes. Two people, one couple can't possibly handle the various needs of the people. So we have a good team of people that work with us well at Crossover Bible Fellowship, the One Love Marriage Ministry. How y'all doing?
Yes.
And so that's kind of what we do. I've been in ministry since 92, but been engaging in marriage ministry seriously since about 2006, and had a great opportunity to kind of learn more about marriages. Received my bachelor's from Moody Bible in Theological Studies, kind of make sure I knew what I was talking about.
There you go. There you go.
And recently, I'm a class of 22 graduate of Columbia International for my master's.
Yes. Give it up.
Absolutely. So this is what we're doing, man. I'm so excited to be here.
Man, I love that.
Awesome.
I'm not going to even lie, because I would never call names. I don't do that. But I sent a couple to you, and I'm like, you got to get over there. Okay. Like, I know, you've been talking to our pastor and our pastor wife, but let me because they kind of know both of y'all. Let's send you to somebody that I know got a good grounded marriage.
Yeah.
Okay, good grounded marriage.
Right on. And they still communicate to me, by the way.
Right.
That's good, though.
They communicate with me on my TikTok page. I see their name come up. I'm like,
yes, man. I want
and perfected the craft.
Yes, and they still use your tools to this day. No lie.
Praise God.
No lie.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And if anybody else out there is looking for
there you go.
Premarital counseling, marriage counseling, you can find me on those handles, Royce F. Robinson.
Yes.
You can email us at rojoent97@gmail.com, rojoent97@gmail.com.
Reach out.
Just inbox me, reach out and say, hey, I saw you on SLM.
Peace saving marriages around here.
Right on.
For sure. So as we get into the show, I was reading an article. It came out this year, 2023, on the Black Love and Marriage magazine online. So we're talking about come and talk to me, communication, talking. So it was saying it posed a question: does the listener control the conversation? And it put it in terms of liking it to a car.
Okay.
Where the person talking is the engine. It's making a lot of noise. It's saying, all different things are going on. But the person driving the car is the one who's going to guide the direction in which it goes, because they're really just listening.
Gotcha.
So what do y'all think about that? Does the listener control the conversation because they can just listen and then ask questions on what the person talking? Because I think we've always been brought up to think that if I'm having a conversation, the more I talk, I'm going to get you to go where I'm going.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
What
you want to go first?
Wow. No, I could kind of see that. Yeah. It just depends on what you're saying, the tone in which you're saying whatever that you're saying. But you do have to listen. And like you said, I'm glad you said listen and respond. Because if you're just listening and you're not saying anything in response, it's like, are you listening?
Right. Gotcha.
Are you actively listening, or are you just trying to shut me up?
Sure.
Because you have some people out there just like, let him get it off his chest and he gonna go on and go. Yeah. But I do kind of agree with that, with the listener kind of guiding the conversation, because when I'm personally listening, I'm thinking about what you're saying. I'm trying to take heed to what you're saying. I'm getting your opinion. It may not be what I want, right, but I'm getting your thoughts. I'm getting your opinion, and then I'm gathering my thoughts and opinion. Other than trying to have a rebuttal to what you're saying, because two people talking over each other, that's not a. People think that's a conversation. That's not a conversation, guys. Like, people just bark. Then what are we getting at? Nothing. Yeah. So, I mean, I do kind of agree with that. I think both really are in the in the way where they can, steer the conversation. But at the same time, I think that if you do more listening, that's where the conversation could really elevate, because now I'm listening to you, actively listening to you, and I'm thinking about what you're saying and not instantly already having a response to what I'm going to say to the first 2 words that you said, and go from there. What you think?
So I understand the concept or the analogy that they're giving, and I do think that the listener has a very important role, in the relationship in that space.
For sure.
But if it's a relationship, it's going to be a relationship because it's 2 people.
Right.
But in order for the ship to move, and how it moves, it's going to depend on both people.
There you go. Okay. Both parties.
It's going to depend on both parties. If the initiator of the conversation, the one who's being assertive, we call it assertiveness. So there has to be the foundation or the identifiers in the conversation has to be somebody being assertive by saying what it is that they want, what it is that they need, what it is that they're here to talk about.
Right.
But there also needs to be an active listener.
Yes.
But at both times. At any time during the conversation, those roles could switch.
Both parties need to be. Come on.
Yeah, those roles could switch.
That's right.
At any time. But for the beginning and the initiation of the conversation, it's going to be very important that the person that introduces the subject matter is clear. They package it well. My wife and I, we call it packaging. You have to make sure that you package it well.
For sure.
Packaging is about tone.
Yes.
Packaging is about timing. Packaging is about, how much are you giving that listener to chew on and digest in order for them to really be able to actively listen.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? Actively listening is about literally me repeating back to you what you said to me.
There you go.
Yeah. But if you just gave me a whole laundry list of things, I got lost.
Can't even process that.
Right. I think there's time for that, and I think there's room for that to be in a conversation where you give more information and more information. But if I just want to introduce the subject matter, then I need to be clear about that so that the active listener will know what it is that they're here for.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then they engage by letting you know, okay, so, if I'm hearing you correctly, you may go through that to say, what I think I heard you say was some of that.
So I was going to say, do I pose questions? If I'm actively listening, I'm going to say, well, I heard you say this. Is this correct?
Yeah.
Is that the proper thing to do? Because if I'm just talking. If I'm the person that's presenting the problem and the person listening to me repeats what I said, then asks me a question, I think I'll be more receptive to that, because that's how I know you actually heard what I said.
Yeah.
You trying to talk to me?
A little bit.
Right. Sometimes
you really looking at me.
Right. I think that's the foundation. I think that's how it gets started. Now, practically, can you have an engaging conversation by, okay, what I think I heard you say, and then you say something, what I think I heard you say? No. But to at least lay the foundation of why we're here. And, if a subject matter changes, you may have to go back to that, foundation. And why do we say that? We say that because words matter.
Yes.
And if you miss a word or add a word, it could change the dynamic of a conversation.
Yeah.
Because now, if Herb is the assertive one, and he's trying to get you to actively listen, and you repeat something back to Herb that Herb didn't say, Herb gets a chance to correct you.
There you go.
And say, okay, that's not what I said. Let me repeat myself.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you just start talking based off of what you thought you heard Herb say, or your interpretation. See, the thing that we want to do in a conversation a lot of times, we want to move to interpretation.
There you go.
Before we at least establish that we're talking about the same thing.
Yes.
If you move to interpretation first, then you throw off the active listener, and now he's chasing your interpretation or trying to defend, and that's not a good thing.
Oh my goodness, man, that was just us like a few weeks ago. I forgot what we were talking about, and I said, no, but you're saying this, and he was like, no. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm like, yes, you are. I just heard you say blah, 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 blah. That's not what I said. Right, that's not what I meant. Right. I'm like, well, tell me. Let's talk about it. Yeah. Tell me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And sometimes there's a space for that. And that even may be necessary for you to say, okay, what I think I heard you say was this.
Yes.
And he gets to confirm that for you to say, yeah, that's what I said. But then you get to turn around and say, can you elaborate? Can you explain more? Because I need more.
Yeah.
And
I need more.
There you go.
Okay, I need more.
Put some meat on.
And that's his opportunity to give you what you didn't have in that initial assertiveness of what we're here talking about.
Yes.
Because there's always space for that, you know, and I think that's a healthier way to start the conversation. So going back to the article, hey, the listener controls it. I think everybody has their active role.
Yes.
You know, it's kind of like flying a plane. You know, you got a pilot, but you also got a co-pilot.
And you need that co-pilot.
Yeah.
Watch to see what's going on.
Yeah. And if you ever stepped into a cockpit, both of them have a lot of buttons in front of them.
Yes.
You know, and at any time, this guy could say, okay, you take over. I'm going for a bathroom break. And so everybody has an important role, but the assertive person, the one who's introducing the subject matter, you know, has to get it started right. You know, with timing, tone, and things like that. So
timing for sure.
Yeah.
So when we think about this came to my mind while we were just talking about timing.
Yeah.
So is it safe to say that people can't take time to like, okay, I heard you, but I need a little minute to process what you're talking about. I need a little minute to process.
Y'all give us a second. We're going to take a commercial break.
But I need a second to process because of the other factors too, because I don't want my tone to be wrong.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a bad time for me to say something that I'm not ready to say. So I may need a minute, but does that time look different for, you know, it's going to look different for a lot of people. Because if I respond immediately,
okay,
active listening, but I don't have a response.
Okay,
so
that happen.
No, I'm just going to say this. I feel like, and this is not all men, but I feel like sometimes men need the time to process. And I'm okay with that. Every deep conversation, you don't need a minute to process. We've been in this thing a long time, I feel. So I feel like that we know each other well enough. And I do know you. So I'm just like, okay, if he need a minute, let me give him a minute because he ain't finna come up in here wrong. We ain't doing that. So if you need a breather, take a breather. And but you gotta come back to me and say, I shouldn't have to come to you and say, okay, you ready to talk now? I don't want to do that because you needed the time to do that. You should come and say.
So there's the timing.
Okay, but come on, days and weeks. We need to nip this thing in the bud.
You can't say that. See, we did a show all about timing. Y'all can check that out. We did. But you can't. How do you know when that time is right for me? I might still need to be processing or saying, okay, if you feel like, oh, well, we need to talk, or you ready to talk now? My answer could be no.
What you got, Miss? Come on, give us a count. This is what a counselor come in, y'all. We getting a free session. Y'all don't even know.
So in that situation, how is that supposed to be handled? You know?
Yeah. First of all, I think the person, number one, the active listener is there they're listening to understand what the assertive person has brought to the table. They're not listening to respond. They're not listening to try to get in their shot, so to speak. I want to hear my partner's heart. I want to hear my wife's heart, my husband's heart, my spouse's heart.
Right.
I want to hear their heart. So I'm listening for that reason.
For sure.
If based off of what I just heard, hey, give me a second, because I don't want to say anything wrong. Right. I want to make sure that I'm responding from a place of understanding and not from a place of, hey, you hit a button in me, and that kind of set me off. And I think that's the responsible thing to do. But as we say in marriage, marriage is for grown folks. You know, we trademarking that. By the way.
Come on.
Marriage is for grown folks.
Yeah.
And so I cannot reasonably and rationally expect for my spouse to just be waiting on me to come back a week later, a month later.
Right.
If they was respectful and kind enough to give me the time that I said I needed.
Yes.
Because remember, your spouse is there waiting on you to get back to the table. They're there waiting on you to come back and finish this out. Because they're it's kind of like they're holding their emotions. And everything I came here to talk to you about is right here in my hands.
Yeah.
And so once I introduce that, I haven't finished. That was just the introduction.
Yeah.
So if you need a minute from that, I'm like, well, what do I do with all this? And how long am I going to hold this before you come back?
A little heavy.
Right. Yeah, it's a little heavy. Absolutely. Because as everyday life is happening,
for sure.
So there's the potential for something else to be put up here.
For sure.
There you go. Okay.
You see what I mean?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So I'm getting heavier and heavier and heavier. You need to love me enough to get back to me and get out of your feelings and let this be about my moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I'm the one who brought this to you.
Yeah.
Because you may have a moment as well.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying everybody is the same. So I'm not saying that I have to take a minute and do. No, I'm not saying that. But I know you may have a moment, and guess what? I'm going to be there actively listening to whatever you have to say.
Absolutely.
And if you want a response, I'll give you a response. If not, then I'll just let you unload. Because sometimes we just need to unload and let that be it.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah. And so to close that off, you have to be respectful of the person who came to you with the issue and know that, remember, they're out there waiting on you to come back.
For sure.
And there's some things that we talk about, systems and conflict resolution and things like that.
Right.
That's another segment. We'll be back for that.
Yeah.
But I think that those things can apply in those moments, when you have that kind of situation.
Yeah. And I was also looking at something. Somebody asked me the other day, I think one of my coworkers, single.
Yeah.
But seeking to, be married and stuff like that. And we were talking about communicating with the person they're dealing with or being in relationships before and having problems with communication. And she said something that struck a chord. I said, well, I'm going to ask Mr. Royce about this one. She said that what do people do when they have a fear to communicate? Based off of the reaction their significant other is going to give, or what do they do when they don't want to communicate because they're trying to avoid the
That's
reaction?
Terrible. Okay.
But
I know.
I mean, give Mr. Royce. That's terrible.
People try to avoid because let's just say
because you're going to get to that point whether if you go ahead and pursue with marriage or not, it's coming.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be totally honest. I've been there. Like, even with sometimes I'm like, I could bring this up. Sure. But I could not and just avoid all of the response.
And then when you bring it up down the line, I'm going to say, you should have said something neat.
Right. But I'm saying, like, it's been done where I'm thinking, like, okay, just to avoid the emotion or the mood
or the mouthiness.
Yeah,
as
to
you
hear
would
the
try
reaction
to say.
I can just avoid that communication altogether and continue on without, any of the backlash.
Gotcha.
Now for the counselor.
So the question started off with, the person has a fear of bringing an issue to the table. And that fear is really kind of a secondary emotion. Anxiety is the one. Right. What does that anxiety turns into? It turns into fear. Right. You have to ask yourself, where did that come from? Where did that fear come from? Did it come from previous experiences? Right. Childhood experiences of going over to mom and dad and they yelling at you. So you bring that into the marriage or to the relationship, and now you're afraid to ask your partner or your spouse certain things. Right. Or did it originate in the actual, relationship?
Yeah.
I came to you last year and you snapped at me.
When you
just blew up on me, and therefore now when I come to you after that, I always got that in the back of my mind.
Yes.
So you have to find out, number one, where's that coming from? It could be your personality style, your communication style, and your personality is who you are. But if it comes from this, so let's just assume it's coming from the relationship.
Right.
Because if it came from something else before that, your partner ends up paying the price for something somebody else did.
Exactly. You need to do some personal work.
Yeah. So do some personal work. But if it came from this relationship, then you need to share with your spouse, hey, listen, you say you want me to talk to you. You say you want me to share my feelings with you. I have an issue with that, or I'm hesitant to do so because back then, here's what you did.
Exactly.
And going forward, ever since that moment, I've just shied away from even saying anything.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So now we're back to that first conversation. I'm assertive enough to tell you.
There you go.
The active listener can't get in their feelings and say, well, the reason why. No. I'm hearing you to understand. What is it that you're telling me? You're telling me, watch this. You're telling me that you as a grown-up individual in this space of adultness, marriage space, you're afraid to come and talk to me, somebody that you're supposed to be able to share all of your feelings with.
Exactly.
You're afraid. Man, what did I do that? Did I create that atmosphere? You know, so is the atmosphere in your home and the relationship conducive for everybody to bring their stuff to the table or to bring their issues without being an issue?
There you go.
And you blowing up on me.
There you go.
You don't want that. So I would say to the person who has a fear, who has some some angst about going to their partner, go back and tell them where that came from, and give your spouse, your partner, an opportunity to grow in that.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right?
There you go.
So now what does that look like? I was afraid to come to you, but let me come to you now. I'm going to share with you. Now, the next time, I'm not going to be afraid to come to you. I'm going to come to you.
There you go.
Right.
But that's your opportunity now, not to blow up on me, because you remember what that did. We already talked about that, right?
Exactly.
It's kind of one of those situations. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
And with that, the person, like you said, it's a growing thing. So the person who's bringing it to him, can allow just a little bit of grace, even if they start up saying, well, and then they back off. They was like, oh, well, you're right, because last time, you're right. Give them a little grace, because people don't change overnight. Exactly. And that's why I'm always patient with Herbert, because I'm like, I know, even in our relationship, I know he wasn't going to change overnight. But at the end of the day, if you wanted to be here, there are some changes that's going to have to be made. But I was very gracious with him. And I think that's just one word that I just want to use is give your partner a little bit of grace, because people don't change overnight. Yeah. It takes work. It takes some learning, some situations, that person actually telling them, hey, this is what it is, because they may not even know. Some people just so timid around other people, they just don't tell them the truth. Yeah. And they walk around thinking that everything is okay, not knowing that particular situation is not good, Right. So that's how I look at it. Right. And another thing, I know when we were talking previously, we talked about, when we were talking about, hey, we just talk about some communication stuff or whatever. You was like, okay, good. Because that communication is the circle.
Yes.
It's the foundation that laid, because you have to communicate about everything. Absolutely. So let's talk about that. So
it's communication is kind of like the center of the wheel.
There you go.
So to speak.
Yeah, that's what.
And everything kind of stems off from that, all the spokes. So you got to talk about sex. You got to talk about money. You got to talk about parenting. You got to talk about jobs. You got to talk about vision, future, buying a home.
Absolutely.
Everything you have to talk about. And so if, from a biblical perspective, if the enemy can attack your communication system, he can affect everything else. Everything else.
Good. That's good.
In war, here's how we frame it. In war, whenever you have two countries that are warring against each other. Right. Right now, unfortunately, Russia invades. The Ukraine. Right. One of the first tactics or strategies of your opponent is to take out your communication.
There you go.
Yeah, if I take out your communication system, the North doesn't know what the South is doing, the East doesn't know what the West is doing. And you end up running the risk of getting hit by friendly fire.
Yes.
Those military guys out there know what that means. That means I got hit by my own teammate. Right. So what does the enemy do? He attacks the communication system. And why does he do that? He does that because it's always worked. It's worked like that from the beginning of time.
For sure.
Those of you who know your Bible, you got it in the book of Genesis. God communicates to Adam what the rules of the garden. Adam obviously communicates it to Eve because Eve communicates it to Satan.
There you go.
Satan miscommunicates it to Eve, but Eve and Adam doesn't have a conversation about that.
Don't communicate that.
You know what I mean? So he tears down that communication system, and that's where you get a lot of the problems. That's why communication is so important.
That's it.
That's why our heart goes out to a couple where you have a person who doesn't like to talk. Man, I don't like conflict. Well, this environment that you're in, this new relationship that you're in requires, some things.
Grown folks.
They're just grown folks. and that's why we enforce and we really pay a lot. We spend a lot of time on communication.
For sure.
Because we realize that right there can be the breaking point or the building point for a lot of couples. Yeah.
So with that being said, I'm just thinking now, are there multiple communication styles? Because a lot of people ask and like, oh, is it just one way? It's not one, because it's gonna look different for each couple.
For sure.
Right? Yeah. So I believe there should be a lot of different communication styles. Yeah. Because the way we do it might not work for somebody else.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Right? Sure. Because a lot of people ask, well, there's no one way of communicating. I say, well, yeah, it's no one way.
Right.
But like you said, communication is just the center of it.
Sure. Yeah.
You got to figure out how that looks for you and your significant other.
Yeah.
Right.
I think communication, are there different communication styles? Absolutely. Yes, they are. There, you walk in a room and depending on the room, I see Herb across the room and I what did I just say? I just communicated. Exactly. Yeah. But if I'm getting on an elevator with and there's some ladies on there and it's a formal type setting or it's a business setting and I do this, what did I do? I just said, "Good morning.
How you doing, ma'am?"
Yeah. So yes, there are various communication styles. Okay, but the question is, here's the question.
Okay.
What's going to be the communication style for us?
There you go.
Because you have two individuals coming from two different backgrounds with two different sets of experiences and all of that. Yes. And they're bringing it into a new environment where they're coming together as one. Come on. All of what you're bringing, you value, and you think, "Hey, this is it.
That's it. That's it.
That's it."
And as soon as you figure out that I know what I'm doing and I know what I'm talking about, the better off you'll be.
Yeah.
And then they're coming doing the same.
I'm not even gonna lie, y'all. That's me. I'm like, this is the way my mom and them did it, and this is the way it works for them. They've been together.
Yeah. She want to do it that way. I'm like, I don't come from that.
Amen.
Sounds good. I mean, we can work towards that.
Right.
And put our own twist on it.
Yeah. And so you have to know that, and you have to be willing to say, okay, I can bring my stuff to the table, but I have to be willing for my spouse to do the same.
There you go.
And
we mold it into our own.
And we make our own. Joe said, and I tell couples all the time, growth is for both.
Yes.
Growth is for both. Trademark.
Okay.
But listen, I've got to be willing to say, hey, I have enough space and I have enough grace to see what it is you have, because I may want to adapt some of your stuff.
Yeah.
Right. But whatever we do, we need to make it work for this team.
There you go.
Yes.
There's some general stuff. Okay, every football team, every basketball team, every baseball team have some general stuff that they're going to make sure that they enforce or put in place for their team to work. But then there's some specific stuff
for sure
that's just for that team. So that's what you have to do. You have to be willing to work at that and be okay with saying, hey, you know what? That worked for me as a single, but now I'm married and that may not work for a married person. Right. You know what I mean?
That's so good that you say that because I'm not going to lie. I came in like, nope, not going to work for me.
Right.
Not going to work for me. Yeah. But then, once he started talking a little bit more and was like, because he was that type of person like, no ma'am, don't work for me. Don't work for me. I'm like, well, shoot, I always thought this was right, so. And then I really like, the things that we've done just because we make it into our own. And people think, it's so crazy. People think, oh, I love, every time we go out somewhere, no lie.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, y'all are just, and I'm like, y'all, that's work.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
marriage is work. I love it. It's the most beautiful thing that's out there. I really do think like marriage is great because you bring in two imperfect people together and just making it their oneness, you know? So I love it. But when people like, oh my God, black love, and I see, I'm like, it's black love.
Yeah, right.
Some good work in black love. You know? Absolutely. But it takes a lot of communication and talking between, even when it comes to the girls or King's schedule or, you know, our person. I have to talk to him all the time. You need to date me. We ain't been nowhere in 3 weeks. What's up? What's up? We can't just do the everyday life thing. Right. It circles right now. What we doing? I text him during the middle of the day like, you want a date today?
Yeah.
Because if you ain't gonna say nothing, I'm gonna just throw it out there.
Right.
Because I need some long time and not just some bedroom boom.
Amen.
Okay.
Amen. I remember that. I saw that.
You want boredom or you want boom? Because I need something to rev me up.
Yep.
You know? So it's just like you said, that center, that wheel, that communication is everything for me. Right. And he knows that. And at first, you know, he was like, dang, I ain't never talked this much in a relationship. I'm like, well, you gonna talk, brother. You gonna talk.
Yeah, I wasn't a heavy talker. So
sometimes it's still kind of like muteness a little bit, but he voices his opinion now.
But what about, is it wrong too as a in communication? Like in the beginning, this is how I kind of thought. Like I don't want to talk that much. Like I don't want to talk. Another conversation, or something I couldn't express. Me as a man, I knew I could express myself better in words, written, or something that way.
I don't do all that texting.
Is that no? Even if it's a text or a letter.
Yeah.
Like. We've had this kind of like with you and some other ladies. They're like, I don't want all that. You got to talk. But the point goes across for me sometimes is I can just write it and here it is. I'm still communicating the same thing. So is that like why is that so bad? You know, what if someone is like that? It's not a heavy talker. I mean, that's how I used to be. But
I'm not saying it's bad, but for me, I'm just like, we grown around here. Like, I want to look you in your eyes, okay? Because sometimes I feel like...
I give you a letter and stare at you, read it.
Bye. Especially when it comes through text messages, I can misinterpret like something like a big dog. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. He may say something in a text that he just saying off of his heart. And like this happened probably not even a month ago. He sent me this long paragraph and I just like, okay. And I instantly started crying because I'm like, and he was like, no, that wasn't what I'm like, well, I took it like this, like, oh no, you know. So for me, I do better when I'm looking you in your face, you looking at me in my eyes, we're having a conversation. You know, we may look out for a second, but guess what? I can feel it if I'm looking at you. So, I mean, I'm not saying that his way is wrong, but what I'm saying is we're gonna have to meet in the middle.
Okay, all right. That's a good sentence to end on. Because what you said was what I need, what works for me. Yes. And he was trying to say
what works for him.
What works for him. And you guys have to find that place. That is right there. But here's what I want you to hear. It's both of you guys coming out of your corners, moving toward the center of the ring, so to speak, so that the team can move forward. Right. Can I at least consider what all it took for my husband to write all this down? Man, what... Golly.
Don't touch my elbow, boy.
He cared enough to write all of this down. He cared enough to share with me his thoughts, and put it all down on paper. Who does that today?
And it's greatly written.
And before I look at it from a negative, can I at least appreciate the fact that he did all of this?
You're right.
ALA format.
It's over.
But guess what though? So you do that. You appreciate it. All right? You read it, and you read it differently than how he meant it. So watch this. You go to crying, and you're like, oh, no, I didn't know. You bring it back to him, and he's like, that's not what I meant. So guess what now? he has to know, man, maybe I shouldn't write it down next time. You see what I mean?
Or that gives him the opportunity. Now, since I'm bringing it to you and I'm saying it verbally, you can verbally say what you meant.
Yeah.
So that's something that we definitely worked on, because I wasn't used to the written notes or the text messages or things. I'm used to, you got a problem, bring it to me face to face.
Right.
Man, no, bring it to me face to face. You so hard, bring it to me.
Right.
I
had to get there.
But I think for him, he doesn't like conflict. Mm-hmm. So he is like, if I bring it to you, you may just not want to talk. I may not get none for a few days, something like that. Other than, okay, if I just softly write it into a text or write into a letter.
And I'm a methodical thinker, like, if I want to communicate to my wife and tell her something, and I've always said, and I've said this since day one, when I was done with all the foolishness, I always said I don't never want to say nothing to my wife that I'm going to regret, or talk to her in a manner in which I did people in the past.
Yeah. Sure.
So therefore, if I'm going to think it through, or if it's something that comes, she bring me something, I'm like, I'm gonna get back to you.
Yeah.
Or if I gotta bring something, so that's why I do that,
Yeah, and listen, it's those communication styles. It's what's working for the team. And like I said, can you appreciate the letter? Can you move closer toward that based off of the experiences from the letter? Hey, you know what? Maybe this one I need to share my heart face to face, and be open for both of those things to happen. I think there's enough room and space for both of them.
For sure.
Yeah. And next time, put a little heart at the bottom. Maybe she'll take. Right on.
No, but that's good though. Herbert and
I did want to. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you. I do want to ask a question. You said he doesn't like conflict. Is that accurate?
That's just pretty accurate.
Why not? What is it about conflict that you don't like?
It's just. I just don't like disharmony.
Okay.
So I try to avoid the conflict. So therefore, I look at conflict like, let me try to stay out of it. Let me do everything that I need to do for my wife, in our marriage, for our marriage, so I don't have conflict.
Okay.
So that's why I don't like it. Does it work?
Yeah.
Not all the time, but I think I do a pretty good job. And another thing, I just don't like to have disharmony at home.
Okay.
Because for me, I look at it as me as a man, it's my safe space.
Why does conflict automatically mean disharmony in the home?
Because these are
the same questions where I'm like,
happen, the lack of conversation, communication comes. And then I don't like we don't want to walk around on the eggshells kind of deal. Yeah. I try to still be hunky-dory, I know we having a little riff, but I'm going to still be trying to be like, hey.
Why does it automatically mean that you're going to have to walk on eggshells? You got to have a riff.
I don't know.
See, thank you. That's what I try to pull out of him. He just think that I just be like, right. And I'm like, no, I feel like that conflict is good because we are getting out our feelings. We will know how each other feels. I'm not going to ever disrespect my husband. Listen, ladies, I don't do that. I don't do the disrespect on the husband thing. I don't do that. That's not the way I was raised. I've never seen my dad disrespect my mom, and I've never seen my mom disrespect my dad ever in life. Okay? So I'm not going to do that for him. So if he thinks that I'm going to disrespect him, it's like, no, let's just have a conversation. We ain't never going to agree. I'm so different from him. Yeah. He's so different from me.
But he didn't say he felt he would be disrespected.
Do you feel like sometimes that it's the disrespect?
It can be at times.
See, sometimes he tell me that, and I'm like, how? Tell me how.
If it's tell me how. So that's when we talk about communication, that's when I'm a zip it. Down. Well, I don't necessarily shut down. But I'm a zip it.
So what does zip it mean?
I'm gonna just be quiet.
Shut down.
Process.
Okay.
What has been said to me and that I took as disrespect. Therefore, I don't respond and say anything in a way that I always promised myself I would not.
Equal shutdown. Like, seriously? No, come on. I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. He shuts down. And that's the definition for me of shutting down. Like, I lost you.
Yeah.
You just...
You know, here's what I think, and I recognize to the audience that the conversation has moved from communication to a different style of conflict resolution. I realize that, but it's just a taste.
Yeah, just a little thing.
But I do believe that when you avoid conflict, it's coming from a space of that was a time and an incident where conflict took place, and you didn't like the outcome. And you never want to experience that again. That's generally where that comes from.
Yeah, that's probably it. Very accurate.
I never want to experience that again. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna find a way to avoid that. I'm gonna walk this way because last time I walked that way, that's where it happened. Right. So let me go this way. Let me move over here. Let me and move around. And so now we're contorting ourselves into all these things, as opposed to saying, well, that happened last time. That doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna happen this time.
And for me, I think that's not you. If you're not being authentic, I need you to be who you are. And if who you are means that you're not going to disrespect me, but you still have something to say, that's communication to me.
Yeah.
That because I would never know how you feel if you don't tell me. And if you tell me, everybody know. If you know me, my memory is so bad. I don't even know what happened last week. Let's be honest. So if he say, well, you did that 2 months ago, and this was, I'll be like, did I? I say that all the time. Did I do that?
Don't remember.
My bad. I don't remember. Yeah. But for you to feel like that, or for others to feel like that, I feel like it's not fair to you because you're not getting what you need. Let's be honest about it. And you just giving me what I want or what I need, and that's not okay.
Yeah.
You know? So you got to come and
Absolutely. It's a work in progress. It is. It's a lot of work that goes into it. That's why we tell couples, marriage is the pro league of relationships.
Yes, it is.
Level.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have another relationship between a man and a woman where, other than marriage, from a biblical perspective, that's the highest one. And so the reason why we have all of these struggles and tension is because at this pro level, it takes more sacrifice, more dedication.
That's it.
More giving up. It's not flag football. It's not tackle. It's not high school. It's not college even. This is the pros.
Yes,
and the pros, we function and operate and communicate and think at a different level than we did before.
Yes,
and it causes everybody to raise their game.
Yeah.
It causes everybody. I think sometimes in marriage, we can enter marriage thinking, okay, this is the way I'm supposed. I can always be like this because this is what you married.
Exactly.
As opposed to saying, no, I need to step my game up now.
There you go.
Because I'm not a fiance, I'm not a boyfriend, I'm a husband, and that title alone comes with a whole different dynamic of expectation.
For sure.
Same thing with a wife. I'm not a girlfriend. I'm not a fiance. I'm a wife. And that comes with new territory. And
absolutely.
And I take that on to the fullest because I hate to keep saying this, but I had good role models as as I was growing up, and the way, and again, I don't take everything from them, but for the most part, they laid a good foundation.
For sure.
So I take that foundation, I brought it to our relationship, and I ain't gonna lie, in the beginning, I'm like, this how we doing it, blah, blah, blah. He was like, that's not how we doing it.
Right.
I like that, but that's not how we doing it. But that came from us communicating with one another. And in the beginning, there was a lot of communication because there was a lot of things done wrong. So we had to communicate to even get here. And it doesn't stop. We're not gonna get up from these chairs and be like, all right, the communication is done, but we did good. Clap. We're gonna communicate in the car. Like, can you take me to go get some shit, please? So it's gonna be some stuff like that, and it's definitely work. And I feel like that if each person communicates well, actively listen to one another, get into the space to where it's not all about you. It's not all about what you're saying. It's not all about what you want, but take your spouse into consideration. Man, that goes a long way with me. Yeah. That goes a long way with me. So, That's how I feel about it.
Amen. 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 And we all working.
No, we
always never stop. I've been married, God willing, this coming May to my lovely wife and my 7th grade girlfriend.
Ain't she fine, y'all?
Matter of fact, I'm done now.
Sit down. Hold on. We got about another minute with you. Michelle said you're going to have to hold on.
But it's work. It's work, man. 28 years later, we're still working. We're still grinding. We're still trying to make sure we get it right. We get to cheat a little bit because we counsel other couples. And so many times we've gotten off of come out of a counseling session and we look at each other like, man, I thank God for you.
Oh, wow. We do that all the time. People that we know, I just be like, oh, Lord, thank you. It's not even close to that. You know?
You'd be surprised,
Yeah, and it does make you appreciate what you have, but it's work. It's constant work. So anybody out there who's listening, don't think that you're going to get to a place where you're no longer working.
For sure.
You get to a place where you're no longer working on the same thing.
There you go.
That's what you want to do.
But something else comes.
Yeah, right. But you're still trying to get better. And you're not trying to change your partner. You're trying to change for your partner.
There you go. Yes. I always tell people it's not about me. It's about him. I serve my husband. It's not about what Jessica wants. If I take self out of it, I'm all about him.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the Bible. The Bible talks about in Philippians chapter 2. Don't look out for your own interests, but look out for the interests.
There you go.
Don't think of yourself more highly, but think of them.
There you go.
And if you apply that in a marriage, man, you could just get on down the road and it'll be amazing.
It will be amazing, man.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So what else you got, Mr. Hur? Because I keep looking at y'all. I'm not even gonna lie. Y'all both smiling. Y'all got these beards. These beards are booming, y'all. I'm looking over here. I'm looking at the fox, and then I'm looking over here. I'm looking at Black Knight. I'm like,
right. Wonder powers activated.
And shining. They put a little oil on it for us tonight. Man, thank y'all so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Royce, for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Man, we really appreciate it. The gems that he dropped, y'all. Ain't gonna lie. We brought him on for a free counseling session. I'm playing. But no, we appreciate you very much for coming on, man. We adore you. We love you and your family. And, we're just glad for you to share.
Yeah, give us some nuggets.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make 28.
Hey,
right?
Come on.
Yeah.
You keep acting right. You'll be at 29.
Amen. And if I could just one more time, just tell people, if you're looking for premarital counseling, marriage counseling, hit us up at rojoent97@gmail.com. rojoent97@gmail.com. Or you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Royce F. Robinson.
Yes, and we'll put all that in the comments too.
Yeah, please go check out his marriage maintenance in 1 minute. Man, I'm telling y'all, you don't even have to think about, let me sit here and watch. Like this podcast, I'm sure normally we do like a 20, 30 minute, but we need it longer, y'all. Yeah. We need it longer today. So, but if you pull that up, good 60 seconds and you go on about your day and good gems. Yeah. Okay, good gems. So, as we close the show, you talked about marriages for grown folks. So every time after we end the show, we just say, shh.
It's grown folks talking.
All right, y'all. Till next time. SLM, we out.